All right, happy Valentine's Eve. This is my second live of the day, and as I've said, I have committed to doing this a minimum of once per day. But I broke away and I was able to get a little bit of free time before my wife gets in, and then we have to go do our celebratory Valentine's Day event. So for those of you who are celebrating Valentine's Day this evening, I hope you have a wonderful night. And for those of you anti-Valentiners, is that even the right word? For those of you who are anti-Valentine's Day people, you're here with me on a Friday night, and we're talking. Tonight, we're going to be talking about can you really make money wholesaling real estate? And I'm not going to sit here and debate for a really long time. I just wanted to talk about whether or not you can make money wholesaling real estate. So I'm just going to sit tight since we're on a live for just a few minutes until I start to see a little bit of activity, just to give people enough time to where the algorithm kicks in and it notifies them. For those of you who are already on here, feel free to comment about what you're doing on your Valentine's Day Eve. What are some of the things that you celebrate? I've been wearing my Teen Mommy shirt all day, and for those of you who don't know, my wife competes. I can back up a little bit more so that you can see it. And so I've been wearing that, in celebration of Valentine's. She competes in fitness competitions, bikini competitions, and weight. I don't even know the acronyms, which is sad, right? Because you would think that I would know them. But she's competing in a variety of different tournaments and events. So anyway, that's what we're doing for Valentine's. Okay, so I'll sit tight just a little bit longer, just to, again, let the algorithm kick in. We hit 100 followers on YouTube, which is actually pretty impressive. And here's the thing. I know it sounds crazy. You wonder why is that so impressive for somebody to be able to hit 100 followers on YouTube. I'm putting my phone on vibrate. And it's because this is actually my second channel. My first channel was the channel that I created for myself as a real estate agent. And I was still really learning how to use YouTube as a way to build my business as a real estate agent. And so that channel was just a little bit of everything. It was a little bit of me as a real estate agent, a little bit of me as a family man, and it was a little confusing. And I've learned that you can actually confuse the algorithm. So for us to hit 100 new followers on our Dispo Dragons channel, to hit it on that channel, and focusing just on one topic is actually quite an achievement. So anyway, let's talk about whether or not you can make money wholesaling real estate. Look, I'm not going to debate whether you can make money wholesaling real estate. The truth is there's plenty of people that are posting their checks, that are posting their wires. We've showed our HUDs. We've let people see what it is that we make. So the question isn't really, can you make money wholesaling real estate? The question is, can it work for you? So what we want to talk about is some of the pros and some of the cons of wholesaling real estate. And I'm going to try to cover that in really short, bite-sized chunks. I don't want this to be a really long live. So let's talk about the pros. The pros of wholesaling real estate, number one, is the fact that the barrier of entry is pretty low, right? So to wholesale real estate, right now in most states, you don't need a real estate license to be able to wholesale real estate. Now, if things change, and it looks by all accounts like things will be changing in the future, and you will be required to have some type of a real estate license in order to wholesale real estate, then you just go out and you get your real estate license. And to get a real estate license is going to, depending on the state, is going to require a certain number of courses. Sometimes it's as little as a 20-hour course. In my home state of California, it's a 140-hour course that you need to complete. You complete that course, you pass the exam, you get your real estate license, okay? So even if you have to get your real estate license in order to wholesale real estate, it's not that difficult. It's going to cost you some more money, maybe about $1,000 in education and licensing fees and insurance fees. And then a little bit more once you become an agent. You're going to have to pay dues, and you're going to have to join the local board of realtors, et cetera, et cetera. But again, the barrier of entry is not that steep, and the bill to have to get into a license is going to run you anywhere between $1,500 to maybe $2,000 tops, maybe. So in comparison to like having to go to college, and in comparison to having to get a degree, it's a lot less expensive. So the barrier of entry is low. Now, let's talk a little bit about wholesaling real estate virtually, okay? Because there are a lot of us that wholesale real estate virtually. Now, if you are going to be wholesaling real estate virtually, your strategy is going to shift because, for instance, I am licensed in 3 states right now, California, Nevada, and Florida. But if I'm operating in another state where they require a license, I don't want to go out there and get 50 real estate licenses in order for me to operate virtually. Not to mention the fact, for me to be able to operate, I then have to incur all the expenses of operating in each and every state, which means I have to pay the licensing, I have to pay the dues, I have to pay the insurances, then I have to have my continuing education. So if you're going to be doing this virtually, you're going to have to partner up with other real estate agents if you're going to be operating in other states where they do require a license and you don't want to go out there and get those licenses. So that's going to be one of the solutions to getting around them, possibly requiring that you get a real estate license in the near future. But as of right now, in my opinion, the barrier of entry is still very, very low in comparison to some of the other, and we'll just use six-figure occupations, 6-figure careers, 6-figure opportunities that are out there. And so the barrier of entry is still pretty low. So that's one of the big pros of wholesaling real estate. The second pro, you can pretty much control your schedule. Now that's a blessing and it's a curse, because when you can control your own schedule, there are some people that are very disciplined and they're very good at controlling their schedule. They're very good at, making sure that they honor their schedule. So if they say they're going to work for 1 or 2 hours a day, wholesaling real estate, acting as a real estate investor, then they work on that, right? People who are typically in sports and fitness, they're really disciplined. They're pretty good at doing this. I am not the most disciplined person in the world. I consider myself more of a creative person, more of a creative thinker. So it took a lot more effort for me to be disciplined and to be able to sit there and say, hey, I'm going to work these number of hours and I'm going to get it done. So the beauty of what we do is the fact that, like, if I have to stop what I'm doing right now and I have to kill this live video and I have to go pick up my son because he needs to get a ride somewhere, I can do that. I can do that in the middle of the day. I can do that in the morning. I can go to appointments. I can be at every event. I can be at all the sporting events that my kids go to. I can be at the parent conferences. I can be at the open houses. It really doesn't matter. I can build this business around my schedule. And again, that's a blessing and it's a curse if you don't know how to discipline yourself to really stay focused and on task when you are in working mode, when you are in working hours. Now, the other reason that it's a blessing is because you can build this around what you are currently doing. So for the people that like their jobs, there are plenty of people that really, really like their jobs. And there's nothing wrong with that. It bothers me when someone thinks that, someone is stupid for not getting involved in our business when they really like their job. Let them, that's the beauty about life. If you find something that you really love and you really care about it, and it's in the form of a job and you work for somebody else, God bless you, right? You found what you're happy with. But then there's still some of you that are going to say, yeah, I'm happy with what I do, but I really like real estate. I really like talking to people. I really like doing what it is that you're doing. Well, the good news is you can build this around what you're currently doing right now. Obviously, the more time that you invest in this business, the more successful that you're going to be. So take that into consideration. The barrier of entry is low. And the ability to be able to build this business around your schedule, for many people is you can't put a price tag on that. Okay, being able to go to those events that you want to go to when you want to go to them without having to go ask a boss for personal time off, without having to ask a boss, hey, can I go pick up my kid? There's an emergency. It's a horrible feeling, and I've heard tons and tons of stories from people that have shared them with me where they wanted to go just to lunch with a spouse or a friend or a girlfriend or a side chick. Anyway, they want to go to lunch with someone and they can't go because, their superiors are telling them no. So, it's not a good feeling. So you can build this around your schedule. Another pro is the education. Okay. Now, the education in this business and to learn this business is not very difficult. You're not going to go through 4 years of college and then 3 years of post-college and higher education. You don't have to go get a master's. You don't have to go get a doctorate in order to be successful at this business. And that's the beauty about this business, because there's two phases in this business. There's the first phase, which I like to call intelligence on ice. And intelligence on ice is where people get involved in this business. They really don't know anything about anything when it comes to this business. They just know that they're excited. They see the opportunity. They see the checks. They see the wires that some of these people are making. And they're thinking to themselves, well, if that person can do it, I can most certainly do it. And so they get involved. And all they do is they're so excited, they just go out there and they just start talking to people. They start talking to sellers. They start talking to buyers. They start talking to their friends. They start talking to their family. They just start talking to everybody around them. Hey, listen, I'm a real estate investor. I'm looking for ugly houses. If you have a friend or a family member that is thinking about selling their property, if you have a friend or a family member who has a property that has too many repairs, if you have a friend or a family member that just inherited a property and they don't know what to do with it, I want to buy it. Can you make that introduction? Can you introduce them to me? Can you give them my number? Can you give me their number? Can you, bridge the gap and put us together? See, well, somebody who's brand new, I call that intelligence on ice, and they're just excited and they're just out there and they're just talking to people. They're posting videos. They're talking about what they're doing. And then what ends up happening is they get a break and then they get some business. A friend or a family member refers them over a seller. They get a social media, a DM message from them just posting videos about how they love looking at ugly houses and they're looking for their next project to work on. And they're just sharing and sharing and sharing and sharing, and it becomes so contagious that eventually somebody gives in and they refer them business. That's what I call, I said intelligence on fire earlier. It's called ignorance on fire, right? They don't know what they're doing, but they're just on fire and they're just talking to people. And then those type of people come in here and they get a deal. And then what ends up happening is 30, 40, maybe even 50 days later, that deal closes and they get a check. And that check could be anywhere between $7,500 all the way up to $25,000, $45,000. Yes, there are some deals where people are generating $100,000 spreads. But look, the average is going to be about $7,500. Okay, so let's say they close it. They get a quick check of $7,500. They help a family out. They assign it or they keep it for themselves and they make that money wholesaling. That's ignorance on fire. But then what happens is that after they get that first check, they get so excited about being in this business that now they feel like, well, wait a minute, I don't even know how I did it. I just know that I was talking to a bunch of people and I was just excited and I was sharing all these social media posts and I was doing this every single day and talking to people every single day. I must have missed something here. There's got to be something that I missed, right? I need to know the contracts now. I need to understand law now. I need to know all my numbers now. I need to learn all these. I need to master these calculators now and ARVs, and I got to understand these spreads, and I got to understand maximum allowable offer, and I need to make sure that I know all the acronyms now. I don't want to look stupid in front of people, right? But they forget that initially it was just ignorance on fire. It was just them being excited. That excitement was contagious, and that was what they were doing. They were just talking to people, and they were generating business just based on that pure excitement. So then they shift from ignorance on fire to intelligence on ice. Now all of a sudden, they want to know everything, which is fine. I get it. We all want to make sure that we're doing everything correctly, ethically. I get it. I get it. Everybody goes through that phase. And now all of a sudden, they know all their contracts like the back of their hands. They know all the terms like the back of their hands. They know every state that requires a license like the back of their hands. They know every software out there like the back of their hands. They know all the apps. They know all the tools. They know all the acronyms. They know how to get ARVs. They know the maximum allowable offers. They become so super educated in this business. But guess what? During that time that they're educating themselves, they forget what it was that helped them get the business initially, which was simply going out there and just making contact with people, talking to people, belly to belly, and that is what this was all about initially. It was just that sheer excitement that helped them get that business. So now they went from ignorance on fire to now intelligence on ice, and then they have no business, and then there's nothing coming in. There's no real contacts. There's no sellers that they're talking to. There's no buyers that they're talking to. They're not posting social media anymore, and they're not doing all these things, and all of a sudden they're saying the business doesn't necessarily work, okay? Now that was a really long-winded way to talk about education and how in this business, one of the pros is the fact that there is no massive, 8-year education process. You could learn this business in a very short period of time, and there are plenty of people that are having success in this business. And quite honestly, they lean on JV partners. They lean on mentors to help them with things like the paperwork, the contracts, negotiations. But you know what they're doing? They're just going out there and they're opening doors. Right? They're finding leads. They're doing all this stuff, and then they're bringing it to mentors and JVs, and they're still closing deals, and they're still making money. All right? So the beauty is the fact that you have someone, that you don't have to go through this stringent educational process in order to become successful at it. And even if you do want to become educated at it, you can always do that through a joint venture partner or through a mentor. All right? So just to recap, number one, the cost, right? To start this business, it's pretty low. Okay, the barrier of entry, okay, is very low, and the education is very low. Okay, and you control your schedule. Okay, normally I have slides. Right now I'm just doing this off the top of my head. So if you have any questions or comments, I'm reading the questions and comments as I do this. But those are some of the pros. Okay, so low barrier of entry. The education, you can probably get pretty educated in about 3 to 4 months, but the best education that you're going to get is probably going out there and working deals. That's probably going to be the best one. And lastly, you can build this around your schedule, right? Now, income potential, 6 figures a year. There's some people that are happy just making $20,000 a year, and that's okay, right? If you're closing 1 or 2 deals and you still stay at your current job and you're making, $20,000 a year extra money in addition to whatever you're currently making at your job or at your salary, and you're comfortable that way, that's fine too. That's a pro as far as I'm concerned. But the beauty is when it comes to income here, there really is no limit. There is no ceiling here. There is no person that is going to control the amount of money that you're going to be able to make. It is all dependent and in direct proportion to how well you master this business. Because what happens is you eventually go from you, the independent entrepreneur, right? The one-person business, OMG, I hear that a lot, the one-man gang or one-woman gang. You start out just by yourself, and eventually you start to understand that you're going to need to delegate a little bit. And then you hire an assistant, or you hire a virtual assistant. You start to delegate some tasks, and then you start to delegate a few more tasks, and before you know it, you've got 3 or 4 virtual assistants, and now you've gone from a single person to actually building a business. And then you grow and you start to scale a little bit more, and now you've got an operation. You hire an acquisition manager, you hire a disposition manager, you hire a marketing manager, you hire a social media manager, and you'd be surprised how quickly you could see someone just go from one person that was just doing this themselves, closing 1 or 2 deals a month, to all of a sudden scaling and building a full-blown business that runs on their own. There are many, many successful people who are closing deals and they're out vacationing, and they've got a staff and a team of people that are working for them back at the home office. And sometimes they don't even have an office. Sometimes everything is done virtually. All right, so that's another pro, the ability to do this business virtually. You could literally be anywhere and run this business virtually if you have the right systems in place and you have the right people that are helping you run the business while you are out gallivanting across Europe, right? That is a possibility. And so you can scale this to that level. You just got to think a little bit bigger. But even if you don't want to get that big, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. You close 1, 2, 3 deals, and if the average deal is $7,500 a year, that's an extra $25,000, $35,000 that you've made in addition to the income that you're already making by putting in an extra 1 or 2 hours a day on top of the, whatever it is. It might be 8 hours, 40 hours a work week that you do. Okay, and some people are perfectly content with that, and there's no shame in that. So that's another positive thing, is that you can do this business virtually. All right, so I think I've listed all the pros. Let's start talking about some of the cons. Okay, some of the cons in this business. Number one, it's a people business. Okay, and because it's a people business, right, there are a lot of variables, a ton of variables. You've got a bunch of different personalities. You've got a bunch of different chefs in the kitchen. You have a bunch of hands in the Spanish phrase would be masa, right? You've got a bunch of people, too many chefs in the kitchen, too many chiefs, in the tribe. You've got all these people that are involved, all these different variables, all these different personalities. And so sometimes these things, clash. And also because you've got so many different variables going on at the same time, and there's so many different moving parts, it creates a sense of organized chaos where you will have to learn how to control that organized chaos. You will have to learn how to mitigate the stress. You will have to learn how to calm down the seller, how to calm down the buyer. So there will be times where you are a negotiator, and then there will be times where you are the therapist, right? And there will be times where you are taking calls at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night from a seller who just doesn't understand why the buyer's corporation doesn't seem to exist anymore, and why the buyer wants to back out at the 11th hour, and why the seller is now saying, hey, listen, we're not going to cancel, they want to close, they needed to move. Things happen. So one of the biggest cons about this business is the fact that it's a people business, and there are so many different moving parts and so many different variables. And let's be real here, sometimes those variables are a little bit outside of your control. But if you can learn how to stay level-headed throughout the transaction, and you just navigate the ship, these deals will typically close. Okay, not all of them. Let's be real here. There's a fallout rate. Deals fall out. That's another con, right? Is the fallout rate and the fact that deals don't always close. But again, you are basically the captain of the ship when these transactions are happening, when these deals are happening, and it's up to you to make sure that everyone stays the course. Okay. Now, going back to what I just said right now about where was I? Wow, I love it when I have brain farts. So another con is deals not closing, and I'm getting warm here, so I'm gonna take this off. Deals not closing. You can't control that sometimes, right? That's the other thing that is very, very frustrating about this business, is that when you're expecting a deal to close, and the seller's expecting a deal to close, and for whatever reason the buyer doesn't close on time, and they need an extension, or their hard money lender all of a sudden gave them some more conditions in order for them to get the loan, or God forbid the buyer just says, hey, it's too high, and they back out. And you're counting on that check, and the seller is counting on that check. That's a frustrating part about this business, okay? And a lot of people don't want to talk about that. You don't see videos of them about people talking about, I just had a couple deals that fell out of escrow, or fell out of they just fell out this week. That is a part of this business. And so that's one of the reasons that you want to prepare yourself as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, to make sure that you have some type of nest egg, or at least 2 to 3 months worth of savings or money that you can fall back on in the event some of these deals don't close, because it is a part of the business. And the earlier that you get used to these deals bombing, that's another acronym that we use, back on the market. The sooner you understand that them falling out of contract is a part of the business, the easier it's going to be. All right. So that's a very, very frustrating and stressful part about this business, is the deal fallout. Not all deals close. And like I said, a lot of people don't really talk about that. Everybody just wants to talk about the deal that they just closed, and the 12-year-old that brought me this deal, and the 12-year-old that just got like $8,000. And hey, that's great, right? But let's be real here. Behind the scenes, there were a lot of deals that didn't close, and a lot of deals that fell out of contract. And this business is no different than a lot of the other types of businesses that are out there too, right? It happens. It's part of it. Like I use the analogy of sports a lot, right? But like the best of the best NBA players, average between 30 to 40% of all the shots that they take, right? They make 30 to 40%. If you're making 40 to 50%, you are in the upper tier of like the NBA. Baseball's the same way. Football players, right? The same thing. You just have to understand that in this business, that is a part of what we do. Deals will fall out. And so how do you compensate by that? You compensate by understanding that that's a part of the business, and what you do is you always make sure that you have more than one deal in play at any given moment, so that you're not relying on that one deal to close and you're not biting your nails. You've got 3, 4, 5 deals that are currently under contract and they're getting ready to close at any given moment, okay? This is something that a lot of people don't want to talk about, but it's important that it gets acknowledged. It's the dirty little secret, is that you're going to have between 5 to 7 contracts in play at any moment, so that you could close a minimum of 1 to 2 deals, maybe 3 deals every single month, because there is a fallout and you might as well be prepared for it. It's a part of the business, okay? What is another con? And I'm reading some of the comments. All right, just bear with me. We're at 24 minutes. I'm probably going to sign off in one more minute. Another con of this business is waiting for the paycheck, right? That is a definite con of this business, because let's be real. You've got the seller. You got the seller under contract. You did your job. You found the buyer. You assign the contract to that end buyer. You've got the two together. You've taken it to the title company, and now you're just waiting. You're waiting for the whole process to kick in. And so I'm going to be real with you. When you have to sit through a 2-week, maybe 3-week, maybe 4-week process for work that you've already done and work that's been completed, and you feel like you've done a good job, and the seller is happy with you, and the buyer is happy with you, and you've put this deal together that you've assigned, and you're ready to get paid, you know, every day that you're waiting, it can be frustrating, because you're thinking to yourself, well, I know it's coming, I know it's coming, I know it's coming. And then, you know, God forbid there's a delay. All of a sudden you're like, okay, now I got to wait another week and then another week. And so that part of the business can be very, very frustrating. That waiting period when you're trying to get those deals closed, it's frustrating for everybody that's involved. It's frustrating for the seller because they want to move on with their lives too. It can be frustrating for the buyer because they want to close too, because not all delays are caused by the buyers. Sometimes there's title issues that the sellers have that they may or may not be aware of. So it goes on both sides. Everybody's ready to close, but there's always, you know, that waiting period, that holding period for it to close. That is definitely a frustrating part of the business. It is, and it's just something that you have to get over. How do you compensate by that? Go back to what I just said earlier. You want to have anywhere between 3, 5, 7 deals at any given moment in your pipeline, so that way, you know, one doesn't close this week. Okay, one's closing, another one's closing next week, or 2 are closing this week. One didn't, but one did, right? And so you when you have a business that is consistently producing those kind of results, it doesn't really affect you as much. It's just business as usual. You just, you know, okay, so there was a delay on that one, extend it one more week, now we move on to the next one. And the only way to get your business to operate that way and in that fashion is by you being consistent and you treating this like a business and you working every single day. And that's the only way it's going to work, right? So anyway, it is now 6:43 Friday night. It's Valentine's Day Eve. I hope that you have a wonderful Valentine's Day night. Enjoy your evening, enjoy your partner, enjoy your spouse, enjoy your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever they might be. And I'll see you guys on the next live. Talk to you soon.